Ladies and gentlemen, we officially have the details of John Cena's final match. It will be against an opponent who wins a 16-man tournament over the next several weeks, a tournament with 16 combatants, and to quote Cena, some from Raw, some from Smackdown, NXT, and even a few faces that don't even work here. So in today's video, I'm going to try and predict those 16 competitors for this tournament to see who is in line to potentially be John Cena's final opponent. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're gonna fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And if you do want more than the daily wrestling content that we upload here, consider coming over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you are gonna get so much more extra content, like the currently ongoing John Cena World Championship series, where we're watching and ranking every single John Cena World Championship win and loss, plus all of the other series are available there. Patreon.com/SantiZap, link in the description, link in the pinned comment. All right, that's enough. Let's jump into it. Starting things off, we have Edge, currently in AEW as Adam Copeland. And I'm honestly just kidding. I really only have him on here so that I could put him on the thumbnail and clickbait you into clicking this video. Because let's be honest, the likelihood of this happening is virtually zero. There's just no way in hell that WWE is going to work with AEW. I'm sure AEW would be down to do business with WWE, but it seems like WWE is more busy trying to put AEW out of business by trying to counter program them than to even attempt to try and work with them, even if it means getting Edge for the retirement tour. So, because I'm not actually going to include Edge on here, I think it's a little unfair that I just completely clickbaited you this way. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the video with 4 people from AEW that would have been cool to have in this retirement tour or the tournament in some capacity. But because they're in AEW, the likelihood that they're going to be in this, in my opinion, is like zero. Not even virtually zero. I think it's like concretely zero. So obviously, Edge is the first one that comes to people's minds. People were already throwing his name around before this tournament. People really started throwing his name around once this tournament got announced, especially because John Cena said that even some faces and names that don't even work here are going to show up, which of course just had people fantasy booking Edge. But I just have to be realistic about things. Edge is still under contract in AEW. A lot of people anticipated that his contract was going to be over as soon as October, but we know that AEW and Tony Khan puts injury time on top of contracts for time missed due to injuries, and Adam Copeland has been injured for a tremendous amount of time during his AEW contract, so he is absolutely not going to be part of this. However, due to his history with John Cena, the legacy that these two guys carved out with one another during the Ruthless Aggression era, you have to absolutely want Edge, even if it's not a possibility. The other guy that would have been cool would have been Claudio Castagnoli, formerly known as Cesaro in the WWE. Now, him and John Cena don't have a tremendous amount of history with one another, but when people think of the John Cena Open Challenge, they think about this match right here, the match against Cesaro. Before AJ Styles showed up to the WWE and had those classic matches with John Cena, Cesaro had given John Cena the best technical in-ring match of his career, and I stand by that. A lot of people, when carving out John Cena's best matches of his career from an in-ring basis, a lot of people put the Cesaro match in the top 3, if not number 1. And although John Cena and Cesaro aren't like that super linked with one another in terms of their careers with one another, they are forever linked because of that wonderful match that they had in the US Open Challenge. Cesaro is forever linked with the US Open Challenge. John Cena is the US Open Challenge. So to me, that is a good enough reason to want Cesaro in this tournament. Of course, it's not going to happen. The other one is Bryan Danielson, formerly Daniel Bryan in the WWE. Him and John Cena do have more history than the likes of Cesaro. You can look back at their fantastic SummerSlam match. You can look back at the time when John Cena was the first like major power in the WWE to truly acknowledge the yes movement by saying, I picked Daniel Bryan for his opponent at SummerSlam. And that was an absolutely wonderful match that catapulted Daniel Bryan's career to no ends because he was one of the rare names to actually beat John Cena clean, no shenanigans, 1, 2, 3 in the ring. And from there on, Daniel Bryan's popularity absolutely exploded, which would turn into the insane yes movement that gave us that crazy crazy lead up to WrestleMania 30 and the WrestleMania 30 moment. Plus, if there's anybody that could still get an unbelievably good technical match out of John Cena, it would be the literal like god of technical professional wrestling, Bryan Danielson. And then the last one, another name that a lot of people think might be a possibility, is Chris Jericho, but he is also under AEW contract until at least like the end of the year. So this is also just not likely to happen. But him and John Cena really do go way back. John Cena's first night on Monday Night Raw after him and Batista swapped shows back in 2005 was on Chris Jericho's highlight reel. And from there on, John Cena became synonymous with the brand of Monday Night Raw. And Chris Jericho was John Cena's like first real feud as a champion after winning the belt from JBL. And both of these guys are in the twilight of their career. It would be cool to see them cross paths in one way or another, even if it's just Chris Jericho being in the tournament. But again, just like all the other guys, he's in AEW, so that's not going to happen. So now what we're going to do is now we're actually going to talk about the 16 names that I think could be in this tournament that are part of the WWE and a couple of the guys that don't work here. We'll start things off with the guys from Monday Night Raw, and I'll start off with Braun Breaker. I mean, when you look at what WWE clearly is intending for the trajectory of Braun Breaker's career, it's to be the future. It's to be the cornerstone of the WWE. And if you really want to cement him as that, the other thing that you can do aside from making him world champion and aside from making him a Paul Heyman guy like they already have is for him to beat the one that puts John Cena's career in the ground. Not only that, but this would be a brand new fresh matchup, the ending career and legacy of John Cena versus the blossoming career and legacy of a guy that's about to take over the industry of professional wrestling in Braun Breaker. It's kind of the perfect passing of the torch, if you ask me, especially if he is going to be in this feud with Adam Pearce, where Adam Pearce doesn't let him compete for the World Heavyweight Championship or whatever it might be, whatever artificial way they use to keep Braun Breaker away from the World Heavyweight Championship. This could be the thing that he does in the meantime, in the thing that he wins so that he can justifiably then go after the World Heavyweight Championship. I know there's a lot of names that many of you would have ahead of Braun Breaker, but try and think about it as if you were a WWE executive. These guys love Braun Breaker. He's going to be in the conversation. Now let's talk about Rusev, one of John Cena's iconic mid-card feuds of the 2010s. The guy that was the reason for John Cena becoming the US champion and going on to have the most iconic and most memorable United States championship run in the history of the company, the US Open Challenge. That all started with Rusev, the prototypical perfect anti-American, scary-looking dude that is just so prototypically made to be a John Cena villain. It's like they literally crafted him in a lab, and his whole purpose in life was just to be a John Cena heel. Dog, they had a match at WrestleMania 31 where John Cena came out to all of this Americana imagery, and this dude came out to a Russian infantry, the Russian national anthem, and a Russian battle tank. This is also one of the feuds that a lot of people point to when they say John Cena never put over talent. John Cena was always building his legacy off the back of others that put him over. Maybe this is a way for John Cena to give back, to allow Rusev to be the one to win this tournament and retire him. Either way, I see Rusev being in this tournament.
Refusing to. Here we go. Oh, God, he barely made it. Dude, there's a fire in the ring, dude.
He's getting caught. He's burning. Put him out.
Curly and Triple A. Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
That was a sneak peek of this week's Horror Week Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're going to be looking at the hellacious Hell in a Cell match between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. The 3 stages of Hell match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H. The infamous WCW Chamber of Horrors match from 1991. The barbed wire Christmas tree match from TNA. And the Undertaker and and Kane in their famous 1999 Inferno match. You're going to be getting all of this, plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the currently ongoing John Cena World Championship Series, and all of the videos and series that we've already uploaded there over on patreon.com/SantiZap. So go check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. We obviously can't post this stuff here on YouTube because it would just get blocked due to copyright. So go check it out over there. I'm confident that if you try it even for just 1 month, that you are going to fall in love with the content and the community. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. Now let's get you back to the video. Sheamus has to be in this tournament. Absolutely. This is another guy that has very intertwined careers with John Cena. He won his first ever WWE Championship just after being debuted for 6 months on the main roster against none other than Super Cena in the height of Cena being unstoppable in 2009. Sure, it was off the back of John Cena throwing himself through a table in a tables match, but it still counts, damn it. Going back to what we were saying about Bryan Danielson, saying about a guy that could still give John Cena like an unbelievable match, I put Sheamus like right up there. Not in terms of like technical skill with Bryan Danielson, but in terms of his ability to be able to have banger after banger after banger after banger, and I'm confident that he would have an unbelievably good match with John Cena. You'll see that in this list, I don't have Dominic Mysterio, and I don't have Dominic Mysterio because I think that Dominic and John Cena are going to have a match before the retirement tour for the IC Championship, where John Cena will win the IC Championship. How poetic would it be if he, John Cena, were to win the IC Championship, take it to his retirement to have a retirement match against Sheamus, and Sheamus were to win and become a Grand Slam champion off the back of John Cena. Penta, because this would be cool, all right? This would be a brand new matchup, something entirely different. John Cena and Penta have like no history at all whatsoever, aside from Penta making a run-in during the basically Bloodline Rules match that John Cena and CM Punk had in Saudi Arabia earlier this year. But I kind of have Penta on here because Rusev is on here, and I could see Rusev and Penta being one of the matchups on here because they have a feud with one another. But sure, like, dude, who's going to turn away a Penta match? All right, I don't think that Penta would win this thing, but Penta being in this tournament, especially like from the Monday Night Raw side of things, it should absolutely be a thing. Maybe the most uninspiring choice here because it's the one that the rumor mill has been rumor milling for the past like 6 months. Gunther making his return back to the WWE, winning the tournament and going on to retire John Cena has been basically what's been spewed out of the mouths of every single website, every single dirt sheet writer on the planet. And I guess it would be on brand with recent actions from Gunther, right? He's the one that retired the legend Goldberg, and maybe he goes on to retire John Cena, and then Gunther becomes this uber mega unstoppable heel. Which, by the way, like, Raw could benefit from having an uber mega unstoppable monstrous heel in Gunther, considering that they've lost their other uber mega heel in Seth Rollins recently. But what we said about Rusev earlier being made in a lab to be a John Cena heel, you could literally say all of those exact same things about Gunther. Gunther is made to be a John Cena heel. And just like Sheamus, I think that Gunther could give John Cena a wonderful send-off match as well. All right, now we're going to talk about a bunch of guys on Friday Night SmackDown. Give me Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes and John Cena already have a little bit of history with each other, dating back to the time in NXT when John Cena just made a random appearance on NXT and was counseling and mentoring Carmelo Hayes. And Carmelo Hayes is currently feuding with one of John Cena's longtime rival, The Miz, and if WWE is actually wanting to take Carmelo Hayes seriously, if WWE actually wants to maybe build a mountain underneath Carmelo Hayes and actually give him a push to the moon, this would be a hell of a way to do it. I think that he should be in the tournament. The likelihood of him winning it, I think, is 0, but I think it'd be pretty cool to get John Cena versus this guy that people think has all of the potential in the world, a type of guy that in like the 2010s, John Cena would have buried. Now, instead of burying him, doing the job for him and putting to bed all of those conversations that John Cena never put over younger talent. Maybe he can do it on his way out with an incredibly talented individual like Carmelo Hayes. Uncle Howdy would be interesting because of the legacy that John Cena and Bray Wyatt have with one another. Bray Wyatt does not get talked about enough in like the conversation of like John Cena's greatest rivals. These dudes had 2 WrestleMania programs with one another. The WrestleMania WrestleMania 30 program that was a tremendous amount of fun, a match that was way better than I thought that it had any right to be. Again, one of those matches where John Cena just didn't put over the talent that should have won. And then, of course, one of my favorite matches, if you want to call it that, in WWE history, the Firefly Funhouse during the pandemic and WrestleMania 36. He, and by he, I mean John Cena and Bo Dallas, don't really have any legacy or any history with one another, but Bo Dallas is the personification, the continuation of the legacy of Bray Wyatt and what he left behind after his passing. So I don't think it is a crazy thing to at the very least want a moment between these two. Sure, I'll take Aleister Black. It's a brand new face that would enter the equation as a possibility to be the one to end John Cena's career. I think he wouldn't win, but I think that kind of similarly to Penta, if you want this tournament to have the best matches available, putting a guy like Aleister Black to me is a no-brainer. We can talk about Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is a guy that a lot of people, when John Cena announced his retirement tour, as a guy that they wanted to see either be in the tour of matches that John Cena has, or be the literal last match of John Cena's career. That is the type of guy that Drew McIntyre is. That is the type of character and the type of aura that this guy has developed off the back of the unbelievably good CM Punk feud. It unfortunately seems like WWE doesn't give a rat's ass about that, because I think they're just content about him getting constantly screwed by corporate Cody over and over and over again. But if he were to take a detour from Cody Rhodes and instead focus on winning something metaphorical, being the one that is holding on to the end of John Cena's career, I think that'd be a pretty cool move for Drew McIntyre, because it seems like they have no interest in giving him the WWE title. Maybe we can give him this instead. Ilya freaking Dragunov. How about just another match for the United States title to end John Cena's career between a guy that cannot have a bad match, that is the current United States champion, versus the guy that is weirdly known for having amazing matches against the guys that are capable of having amazing matches in John Cena, and a guy that is synonymous with the sentence United States champion. It'd be kind of cool if Ilya Dragunov were to win this, and Ilya Dragunov to say, you know what, not only do I want this to be the last match of your career, but I want to make this for the United States championship. And it wouldn't be crazy to think about John Cena, America's golden boy in WWE, to go out winning the United States championship in the United States capital of Washington, D.C. There are a tremendous amount of rumors that a lot of American politicians, including potentially the president of the United States, Donald Trump, being in attendance. And I'm sure WWE would love that imagery of John Cena celebrating in America's capital with America's title in front of America's president. This is not your opportunity to jump into the comment section to start debating politics, okay? We're just talking wrestling here, all right? But I'm sure if you were to put yourself in WWE's shoes, the types of things and headlines that they like to garner, that's gotta be something they might want to be considering. On top of that, Ilya Dragunov would give John Cena an absolutely fantastic send-off match. The last guy from the main roster that I think we need to discuss is The Miz, right? We've already put in names like Rusev in here, like Sheamus in here. I think it would be a crime to not include another guy that's had 2 WrestleMania matches with John Cena, albeit one of them being a mixed tag match that led to a John Cena proposal to a marriage that never ended up working out. But hey, a lot of people, including The Miz himself, are clamoring for an opportunity to be part of the John Cena retirement tour. I think it would be criminal to not, at the very least, include him in a tournament. Even if you don't want him to win, if he does win, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it'd be pretty cool to see John Cena and The Miz go at it one last time. But I think at the very minimum, maybe this is where they run Carmelo Hayes versus The Miz as a way to blow off that feud as well. Going to the NXT guys, I've got Obafemi. Obafemi recently lost the NXT championship, hasn't been seen on NXT television. It's pretty clear that he's on his way to the main roster, and I think that this would be a very impactful way to call him up to the main roster by having his first task, his first thing on his main roster career be entering the John Cena retirement tournament. And if you want to set up the next generation of megastars right off the bat, having Obafemi win and having Obafemi be the one to end John Cena's career, something that he may may have manifested himself because he said this like in an interview that that's what he wants to do. Maybe it will happen. We have Trick Williams as well on here. Kind of similarly to Obafemi, it feels like Trick Williams has done everything that there is to do on the main roster. He's currently embroiled in a feud with the NXT champion, but it's clearly a feud that he's going to lose. He's already lost the first match of it clean. I think that Trick Williams' time in NXT is starting to run out. He's already even been over to TNA and been the TNA champion. There's just nothing left for him to do there. So similarly to Obafemi, just have him debut in this tournament on the main roster would be pretty awesome. And yes, similarly to Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams was part of that conversation and mentoring with John Cena about a year and a half ago on NXT. I think this is a low likelihood, but if you want to have NXT be represented in this, it doesn't get more representative than the guy that is the NXT champion. Having your champion represent NXT in this tournament, to me, seems like a no-brainer. I think the only downside of this is that I don't see a Ricky Saints winning this, so you would be putting your NXT champion in a position to lose a match, which might hurt him in the long run with his NXT championship run. That's really the only reason. But him losing to, say, a Sheamus, let's say if they were to do Ricky Saints versus Sheamus, and Sheamus were to beat Ricky Saints, that doesn't hurt Ricky Saints at all. I kind of mulled over the idea of Ricky Saints or Javon Evans, but I don't think that they're going to have more than 3 representatives from NXT in this tournament, and I decided to go with the NXT champion as opposed to Javon Evans. And now to talk about the guys that don't work here, I don't think it's going to be very many. I think it's literally just going to be 2. I think it's going to be Joe Hendry. The first one is, I think to me, is a no-brainer. This is a guy that WWE has already trusted in being in a Royal Rumble, to being on NXT TV like almost on a weekly basis without even being signed to NXT or WWE, and having a WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. If they've already trusted him to do all of those things, I don't think it's far-fetched to think that WWE would trust Joe Hendry to be in this tournament. And then there's the obvious one, the one they have to do. They have to have Matt Cardona be part of this tournament. If it's not even to win it, it's so that at the very least, Matt Cardona could be on the same episode of Monday Night Raw as John Cena, so that John Cena can have a backstage segment conversation with him, so that John Cena can formally apologize for cucking him all of those years ago by stealing his girl, Eva Marie. Wait, no, it wasn't Eva Marie. Who was it? Was it Eva Marie? It was, all right, now I gotta Google this real quick. It really isn't that important, but now, for the sake of this video, I have to remember who it was. I knew it was something with an Eve. It's an Eve Torres. That's the girl that John Cena was caught making out with, as poor Zack Ryder at the time was in a wheelchair, in a neck brace, with a bouquet of flowers, watching them make out. WWE was a different time back then, folks. But yeah, man, you gotta have this guy on here, always ready. The guy that's been wanting to get back into the WWE now gets the perfect opportunity to come back to the WWE to put to bed one of the things that has always haunted John Cena's career and his relationship with the fans, which was the overall treatment of Zack Ryder at the time. We can finally put that to bed. All right, folks, we'll leave it there. There's some AAA names that could have been part of this. I just chose not to include them on here. I feel like the only one from AAA that could have been on here might have been somebody like Hijo del Vikingo. I don't think a Mr. Iguana would have been a great play here. I don't think a La Parka would have been a good play here. I think Dr. Wagner Jr. could have been a good play here, but he's so busy already feuding with Ethan Page. There's already a bunch of stuff there that I chose to just stick to main roster NXT and the 2 guys that I think don't work here. But now it's your opportunity to let me know in the comment section below who you would have had, who you would remove from my list. But that's it, folks. I am done. We'll find out more about this soon, maybe even on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. Get out of here.